My mother's perfectly organized spreadsheet for my sister's wedding wasn't just about budgeting. It was an elaborate financial trap that cost me nearly $10,000 and exposed her darkest secret. The first sign that something was deeply, fundamentally wrong was a spreadsheet. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand the sheer gut-wrenching betrayal, you have to understand my mom. My mother, Brenda, isn't a person. She's a force of nature. She's the self-appointed CEO of our family, the master planner, the logistical overlord. For my entire life, if there was a vacation, a holiday dinner, or a family get-together, she was the one orchestrating it. She'd book the flights, reserve the hotel blocks, make the restaurant reservations, and then send everyone a neatly itemized bill. We all just went along with it because, honestly, it was easier. Arguing with my mom about her methods was like trying to argue with a hurricane. You just find shelter and wait for it to pass. So when my older sister, Jessica, announced she was getting married in Hawaii, my first thought wasn't about the dress or the beautiful beaches. It was, oh God, Mom's going to go into overdrive. And she did. Within 24 hours of the engagement announcement, my inbox was flooded with emails from her. Subject lines like Jessica's big day, flight logistics, and Hawaii accommodation, action required. She had already researched venues, caterers, and of course, flights for the entire extended family. It was both impressive and suffocating. I'm a graphic designer, living in a city 1,000 miles away from my family. I do okay for myself, but I'm not rolling in money. I'm meticulously saving for a down payment on a small condo, and every dollar has a job. A trip to Hawaii was a huge expense, so I immediately started doing my own research. I found round-trip flights for about $200 if I was flexible with the dates. It was steep but manageable. I could make it work. A few days later, my mom called. Chloe, sweetie, I'm booking the flights for everyone tomorrow. I found a fantastic deal through a group agent. It's going to be so much easier if we're all on the same itinerary. I hesitated. Oh, that's okay, Mom. I actually found a few decent options on my own. I might book one of those. The temperature on the phone line dropped by 20 degrees. Don't be silly, she said, her voice taking on that familiar brittle edge. You'll end up paying all sorts of hidden fees. Baggage, seat selection. It adds up. My agent is bundling everything together. It's a package. It will be cheaper. Trust me. This was her classic move. Frame her control as a favor to you. Make you feel like you're being difficult and ungrateful if you don't accept her help. I knew it was a battle I wouldn't win, so I caved. Okay, fine. What's the price? Let me see. I could hear her clicking away on her keyboard. With all the taxes, the airport transfers in Hawaii, and your 2 checked bags, the total per person is $1,450. My heart sank a little. $1,150. It was about $250 more than the flights I'd found, but she'd baked in the transfers and bags. I did some quick mental math. Maybe it wasn't a terrible deal, and more importantly, it would keep the peace. Okay, Mom, that's fine. Let's do it. Just send me the booking confirmation when you have it, please. Of course, honey. Just send the money to my account by Friday. I have to pay the agent in one lump sum. Click. She hung up before I could ask another question. I transferred the $1,350 from my savings account. Seeing that number leave my condo fund was painful. It was a huge chunk of my progress for the year, gone in a single click. But it was for my sister's wedding. It was worth it. I sent my mom a screenshot of the transfer confirmation and tried to put it out of my mind. A week passed. No confirmation email. I texted her. Hey, Mom, any chance you have the flight confirmation yet? Just want to have it for my records. Her reply came back almost instantly. It's a group booking, Chloe. The agent sends all the tickets out together, 30 days before the flight. It's all handled. Stop worrying. My boyfriend, Mark, was sitting next to me on the couch. He saw the text and frowned. That's weird. You should have a confirmation number or a record locator the second it's booked, even for a group. I know, I sighed. But you know my mom. It's her way or the highway. If I push, she'll accuse me of not trusting her, and it'll turn into a whole thing. Mark just shook his head. For $1,500, I'd want more than just, it's all handled. That's a lot of money to just have floating in the ether. He was right, and a little knot of anxiety started to form in my stomach. But I pushed it down. This was my mom. She could be controlling and overbearing, but she wouldn't. She wouldn't scam me, right? The next few weeks were a masterclass in maternal evasion. Every time I asked, there was a new excuse. The agent is on vacation. There was a small schedule change from the airline. She's reissuing them. Honey, I have a dozen things to worry about for this wedding. The flights are the least of my concerns because they are done. Please drop it. The wedding was now only 2 months away, and I still had no ticket, no confirmation number, nothing but a $1,350 hole in my bank account. The anxiety was no longer a small knot. It was a writhing pit of snakes in my stomach. I was starting to have nightmares about showing up at the airport and being told I didn't have a seat. I was convinced that her disorganization meant she'd forgotten to book my ticket and had just kept my money. That was the worst-case scenario I could imagine. The reality, I would soon find out, was so much worse. The breaking point came during a call with my sister Jessica. She was stressed out of her mind with last-minute wedding details. We were talking about floral arrangements when she changed the subject. "By the way," she said, her voice softening, "Mom told me what you did. I can't believe it, Chloe. Thank you so much. It's an incredibly generous gift." I was completely lost. Gift? What gift? I sent my RSVP back in March. Jessica laughed, a tired, airy sound. "No, silly. The flight money. Mom said she was so touched. She said after she told you the price, you insisted on sending way more to help us with the wedding costs. It honestly helped us afford the better photographer. We were just going to have to make do before." My blood ran cold. The phone felt slick in my hand. "Jess, what are you talking about? What price did Mom tell you I paid?" "Well, she showed me the family payment spreadsheet she's keeping," Jessica said cheerfully, completely oblivious to the bomb she was about to drop. "She marked you down for the full amount you sent. It was, hold on, I have the file open right here. Yeah, it says Chloe's flight contribution, $9,540. The world didn't just tilt, it inverted. For a long, silent moment, the only sound was a faint buzzing in my ears, like a distant, angry insect. Jessica was still talking, her voice a cheerful, tinny sound from a million miles away, but I couldn't process the words. $9,540. The number echoed in the hollow space that had just opened up in my chest. It was a nonsensical figure. It wasn't just an overcharge. It was an absurdity. It was more than I made in 2 months. It was a third of my entire down payment fund. "Chloe, are you still there?" Jessica's voice cut through the static. "You're quiet. I hope Mom wasn't supposed to keep it a secret. I had to thank you. It's the most generous thing anyone's ever done for us." I had to say something. My throat felt like it was full of sand. I swallowed, hard. "Jess, can you repeat that number for me? I think the connection is bad." "Oh, sure. 9540, she said, enunciating each digit with a little sing-song lilt, as if announcing lottery numbers. "It's right here in the column next to your name. Mom made it all color-coded. She's so organized, isn't she?" Organized. That was one word for it. Predatory was another. My mind was scrambling, trying to find a rational explanation. A typo. Did she mean 1954? Still a lot, but not a life-altering amount. But Jessica had read it out digit by digit. There was no mistake. My mother had taken nearly $10,000 from me and disguised it as a plane ticket. I had to see it. I needed proof, something tangible to look at, because my brain was refusing to accept this as reality. "Hey, Jess," I said, forcing a lightness into my voice that felt like swallowing glass. "That spreadsheet sounds wild. Can you do me a huge favor and email it to me? I'm trying to get better at budgeting, and seeing how Mom organizes a big event like this would actually be super helpful. For future reference." It was the lamest excuse I've ever come up with, but Jessica, bless her heart, bought it completely. "Oh my God, totally. It's actually a work of art. I'll send it over right now. You're going to be amazed." We said our goodbyes, her still bubbling with gratitude and me feeling like a ghost. The moment I hung up, my body started to shake. I wrapped my arms around myself, pacing the small confines of my apartment. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a calculated, deliberate act. My mother had looked me in the eye, metaphorically, over the phone quoted me one price, and then helped herself to an additional $8,000 from my savings. She hadn't just stolen from me. She'd weaponized my sister's wedding to do it, wrapping the theft in a bow of family generosity so that if I ever questioned it, I'd look like the bad guy. I'd be the selfish, ungrateful daughter taking back a gift. My boyfriend, Mark, came home an hour later to find me sitting on the floor, staring at my laptop screen, my face pale. He took one look at me and was instantly on high alert. "Chloe, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." Worse, I whispered. I told him everything. The phone call, Jessica's words, the number. As I spoke, his expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, and then to a cold, hard anger that I'd rarely seen in him. "She did what?" he said, his voice dangerously low. $9,500? For a flight? That's not a markup, Chloe. That's grand larceny. He knelt in front of me, taking my cold hands in his. "You have to call her. You have to call her right now and demand every single cent back." "I can't," I choked out, tears finally starting to fall. "Mark, you don't understand. Jessica thinks it was a wedding gift. She thanked me for it. If I call Mom and blow this whole thing up, the fallout will ruin the wedding. It will destroy Jessica. It will become the only thing anyone remembers about her big day, the greedy sister who caused a family war over money." "So what's the alternative?" he demanded, his voice rising. "You just let your mom steal the equivalent of a used car from you. You just smile and show up in Hawaii and pretend you're not out the money you've been busting your ass to save for years?" He was right, but the thought of that confrontation, of the accusations and the drama, and the inevitable way my mom would twist it to make me seem like a monster, was paralyzing. Just then, a notification pinged on my laptop, an email from Jessica. Subject: Mom's crazy spreadsheet, LOL. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it, the proof. Mark moved behind me, putting his hands on my shoulders as I moved the cursor over to the email and clicked it open. There was the attachment: Hawaii wedding budget, final, XLSX. I took a deep breath, like a diver about to go under, and opened the file. It was exactly as Jessica had described, a dizzying array of color-coded tabs and columns. There was a tab for the venue, for catering, for flowers, and then there was the tab labeled Family Travel and Contributions. I clicked on it. My eyes scanned down the list of names. Uncle Robert, $1,450. Aunt Carol, $1,450. My cousin David and his wife, $2,300, all the same. All exactly the price Mom had quoted me. And then I saw my name. Chloe. The cell next to it didn't just say $9,540. It had a small red triangle in the corner, the kind that indicates a comment. My hand was trembling so badly I could barely control the mouse as I hovered over it. A little yellow box popped up, containing a note my mother had written to herself. A note that was never meant for my eyes. It was an itemized breakdown. Flight, $1,450. Baggage and transfer fees, $200. Sister of the bride support levy, $2,500. Maid of honor. Gratitude fee, $3,000. Reimbursement for childhood expenses, estimated, $2,290. I read the comment aloud, my voice a hollow whisper. Mark let out a string of curses, his hands clenching and unclenching on my shoulders. "Reimbursement for childhood expenses," he repeated, his voice laced with venomous disbelief. "She's billing you for raising you. Chloe, this isn't just theft. This is psychosis. This is the single most narcissistic, manipulative thing I have ever seen in my life." He wasn't wrong. The air left my lungs in a painful rush. It was so much worse than a simple, greedy cash grab. This was a statement. This was my mother, in her own private document, declaring that my existence had put her in the red, and that I owed her. Every scraped knee, every box of macaroni and cheese, every school field trip, it was all tallied on some invisible ledger in her mind, and she had finally decided to cash in. The sister of the bride support levy and the maid of honor gratitude fee were just as insane. It was like she'd created a series of fictional taxes based on love and familial obligation, and then levied them against me without my knowledge. I felt a wave of nausea. I minimized the spreadsheet, unable to look at it anymore. My entire life, my relationship with my mother, was flashing before my eyes, but now it was all viewed through this grotesque new filter. Every time she'd said, "I sacrificed so much for you kids," it wasn't a statement of love. It was an itemized invoice in waiting. Every guilt trip about not calling enough, every passive-aggressive comment about my career choices, it was all part of this. I wasn't a daughter to her. I was a delinquent account. "We are not going," Mark said, his voice firm and absolute. He started pacing, a caged tiger in our tiny living room. "We are not getting on a plane. We are calling your father, your sister, your aunts and uncles, and we are sending them this spreadsheet. This ends now." "No!" The word burst out of me, raw and desperate. "Mark, you can't. Think about Jessica. Her wedding is in 6 weeks. If we do this now, the entire family will implode. She'll be devastated. Her wedding day will be remembered as the day our family fell apart. I can't do that to her. So you'll do this to yourself instead, he shot back, stopping to face me. You'll let your mother get away with stealing nearly $10,000 from you and billing you for your own childhood. Chloe, this is a line. If you let her cross this line, there will be no coming back. She will own you for the rest of your life because she'll know she can do anything, and you'll roll over to keep the peace. Tears were streaming down my face now, hot and angry. I know you're right, but I don't know what else to do. Jessica thinks I'm the most generous person on earth. My mother has painted this narrative where I'm a loving benefactor. If I blow the whistle, Mom will just deny it. She'll say I doctored the spreadsheet. She'll say I'm jealous of my sister and trying to ruin her wedding. And you know what? Half the family will believe her. They always believe her. We sat in silence for a long time, the toxic glow of the laptop screen illuminating the room. He was right. I was right. We were trapped in an impossible situation. Finally, Mark sat down next to me and pulled me into his arms. Okay, he said, his voice softer now. Okay, you're right. Exploding everything right now isn't the answer. It's what she'd expect. She thrives on chaos. We can't give her that, so we need a new plan. A smarter one. I wiped my eyes, listening. What kind of plan? We need more than just her spreadsheet, he said, his mind clearly clicking into strategic mode. The spreadsheet is damning, but like you said, she could claim you faked it. We need irrefutable proof. We need the actual official booking confirmation for the flights, the one that shows the real price for everyone else. If we can get that, we have her cornered. He was right. The spreadsheet showed her motive, her twisted logic. But the flight confirmation was the murder weapon. But she won't give it to me. I've asked 12 times. So we don't ask her, Mark said, a glint in his eye. We ask someone else, your cousin David. You said he and his wife are on the list. They paid the normal price. Ask him to forward you his confirmation. Make up an excuse. You need the flight number to book a rental car. You want to check the baggage allowance. Anything. It was a brilliant idea. Simple. Clean. David was pretty level-headed. He wasn't a gossip and generally stayed out of the family drama. He was the perfect person to ask. I pulled out my phone, my hands still shaking, and drafted a text. Hey David, hope you and Sarah are doing well. Quick question, and sorry to be a pain. I'm trying to coordinate my rental car in Hawaii, and Mom is being super vague about the flight details. You know how she gets LOL. Any chance you could forward me your flight confirmation email? I just need the arrival time and flight number. Would be a huge help. Thanks, Chloe. I hit send. The message bubble turned blue. Delivered. Now we just had to wait. Every minute that passed felt like an hour. We didn't talk. We just sat there, watching the phone as if it might explode. I imagined David reading the text, shrugging, and forwarding the email. In 5 minutes, I'd have the proof I needed. I'd have the key. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was David. My heart leaped into my throat. This was it. I opened the message, my eyes scanning it rapidly. But it wasn't an email forward. It was a text reply. Hey, Chloe. Wow, your timing is unreal. Your mom literally just texted me about this 5 minutes ago. I was so confused, but now I guess this is what she was talking about? Anyway, I don't think sending you my confirmation is a good idea. I'm really sorry about your money troubles, but you shouldn't be putting the rest of us in an awkward position. My blood turned to ice. What is he talking about? I whispered. Before I could even process his words, a second message from David came through. It was a screenshot of the text my mother had sent him. My eyes focused on the words, and the last bit of ground crumbled away beneath my feet. It read, David Sweetie, quick heads up. Chloe is a little embarrassed about her financial situation and might reach out to you with some story about needing flight details. The truth is, I had to cover a large portion of her ticket, and she's trying to figure out what everyone else paid. If she asks, could you please just tell her you paid $2,500 for your ticket? It would do a lot to protect her pride. We all need to stick together as a family to help her through this rough patch. It was a masterstroke of psychological warfare. In a single text message, my mother had preemptively destroyed my credibility, painted me as a charity case, and recruited a family member as an unwitting accomplice in her cover-up. She hadn't just anticipated my move, she'd checkmated me before I even knew we were playing. The lie was exquisite in its cruelty. She'd invented a rough patch for me, a financial struggle that didn't exist, and then framed her theft as an act of generosity. She wasn't a thief, she was a benevolent matriarch, quietly subsidizing her financially incompetent daughter. And now, she'd instructed David to lie to me, to inflate the price he'd paid, all under the guise of protecting my pride. It was diabolical. Mark read the screenshot over my shoulder and let out a low whistle. "She's good," he said. And it wasn't a compliment. It was an assessment, like a soldier sizing up a formidable enemy. "She's an artist. She's already seeded the narrative. Now, if you come forward with the truth, you're not just an ungrateful daughter ruining a wedding. You're a liar who's been caught trying to snoop on everyone else's finances after your poor mother already helped you out." I felt a cold, terrifying clarity wash over me. I was completely and utterly trapped. Every door I tried to open led to a brick wall she had already built. Arguing would be futile. Presenting the spreadsheet would be dismissed as a forgery created by a desperate, broke, and jealous sister. My own family had been weaponized against me. I could just picture the phone calls now. My mother, her voice dripping with faux concern, telling my aunts and uncles how worried she was about me, how I was acting out because of financial stress. I dropped the phone on the couch as if it were burning me. "This is it, then," I said, my voice flat. "She wins. I go to Hawaii. I smile in the pictures. I stand next to my sister as maid of honor, and I watch my mother toast the happy couple with champagne that I bought her, and I never see that money again." "No," Mark said, his jaw set. "Absolutely not. We're not surrendering. We're just changing tactics. She's playing chess, so we stop playing checkers. She thinks she's anticipated everything, but she has one major blind spot: her own ego." I looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "Your mother needs to be the hero of this story," he explained, his eyes intense. "Right now, she's the hero who secretly helped her struggling daughter. That's her narrative. She's also the hero who planned this entire perfect wedding trip for the family. The master organizer, the logistical genius. Everything has to be perfect because it's a reflection of her. So, we're going to introduce a little imperfection. We're going to find a crack in her perfect plan and jam a crowbar into it." I was still lost. "How? She has all the information, the tickets, the itinerary." "Exactly," Mark said, a slow smile spreading across his face. "She has it. We don't. You have been asking for weeks for your flight confirmation, and she has refused to give it to you. You are a paying customer who has received no receipt and no proof of purchase. That's not just a family squabble. That's a consumer rights issue." The gears in my mind started to turn. "So, what do I do? Call the airline?" "Better," he said. "You're going to call your mother, but you're not going to be angry. You're not going to be accusatory. You're going to be helpless. You're going to be panicked. And you're going to create a problem that only she, the master planner, can solve." We rehearsed it. Mark played my mom, and I practiced my lines. I had to drain all the anger and suspicion from my voice and replace it with pure, unadulterated anxiety. It felt disingenuous, like I was becoming a manipulator just like her. But Mark was right. Fighting her on her terms was a losing battle. I had to change the game. I took a deep breath and dialed her number. She answered on the second ring, her voice sickeningly sweet. "Chloe, honey, I was just thinking about you. Are you getting excited?" "Mom, I'm freaking out," I said, pitching my voice high with panic. "I'm really sorry to bother you, but I have a huge problem." "What is it, sweetie?" she asked, a hint of condescending calm in her tone, the sound of a hero ready to swoop in and save the day. "It's my boss," I lied, weaving the story Mark and I had concocted. "We just landed a massive new client, and the project kickoff is the week after the wedding. It's mandatory, all hands on deck. The problem is, for insurance and liability purposes, they require a copy of my flight itinerary for any personal travel, right before a major project launch. It's some new, stupid corporate policy. I have to submit it to HR by tomorrow morning, or they said they'll have to pull me from the project." There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could hear her processing, calculating. This wasn't an emotional appeal she could dismiss. This was a bureaucratic, corporate problem. It was an external force that threatened her perfect plan. "Well, that's just ridiculous," she finally said, her voice tight. "They can't do that." "I know. It's insane, but my hands are tied," I said, letting a desperate whine creep into my voice. "I told my boss I couldn't miss my sister's wedding, and he was like, 'Of course not. Just get us the paperwork.' Mom, I really need the confirmation number or the e-ticket. Can you please just forward me the email from the travel agent? I need to send it to HR first thing." Another long pause. I held my breath. I could picture her, staring at her computer screen, at the spreadsheet, at the web of lies she had so carefully constructed. My request was a direct threat to that web. If she sent me my real e-ticket, I would see the actual price, $1,550. The whole scam would be exposed. But if she didn't, she created a new problem. The maid of honor might not be able to come to the wedding because of a work issue, and that would be a catastrophic failure in her perfect event planning. Chloe, I already told you. It's a group booking, she snapped, her voice losing its sweetness. The agent has it all. It's not that simple. But can't you just call her? I pleaded. It's an emergency. I could lose this project, Mum. It's a really big deal for my career. Please, I just need a PDF of the ticket. Whatever you can get. I'll see what I can do, she said, her voice clipped. I'll have to call the agent in the morning. She's on the West Coast. Stop panicking. I'll handle it. She hung up. I exhaled, my entire body trembling. Mark gave my shoulder a squeeze. Phase 1 complete, he said. Now we wait. We've backed her into a corner. She either has to produce the real ticket and expose herself, or she has to come up with a very, very good reason why she can't. We both knew she would never admit defeat. She would find another way, another lie, another angle. We just didn't know what it would be yet. The next morning, I woke to an email from her. There was no text in the body, just a single attachment. It wasn't the airline confirmation. It was a PDF file named Chloe Hawaii Invoice PDF. My stomach twisted into a knot of dread. I opened it. It was a professional-looking invoice created from some online template. At the top was a logo I'd never seen before, Brenda's Bespoke Travel. She had invented a travel agency and named it after herself. Below, it listed a single-line item. Custom Hawaiian wedding package for maid of honor. And next to it, the total price, $9,540. But it was the fine print at the bottom of the invoice that made my blood run cold. A single sentence, clearly added to address my work problem. Per corporate travel policy, this non-refundable, non-transferable package includes a premium, fully flexible first-class airfare ticket, which allows for unlimited last-minute changes and cancellations at no additional cost. The audacity was breathtaking. Faced with a choice between admitting her lie or doubling down, my mother hadn't just doubled down. She'd built an entire fortress of deception around her original lie. She'd created a fake travel agency, complete with a name that centered herself as a high-end purveyor of bespoke experiences. She'd fabricated a custom package designed specifically for me, the maid of honor, implying that my role required a higher tier of service. And the pièce de résistance, the claim that my ticket was a fully flexible first-class fare. It was a lie so specific, so detailed, that it was clearly designed to be unassailable. How could I argue? She was giving me exactly what I'd needed for my fake work problem, a justification for the exorbitant price, and a plausible reason for the ticket's flexibility. She'd heard my manufactured crisis and had, in turn, manufactured a solution. Mark stared at the PDF over my shoulder, a slow, grim smile on his face. She's a shark, he murmured. A stone-cold predator. She didn't just solve her problem, she used your fake problem to reinforce her original lie. This isn't just an invoice, it's a power move. She's telling you, I can and will create any reality I want, and you will live in it. He was right. The fake invoice was a masterpiece of gaslighting. It was designed to make me question my own sanity. Maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe there was a special package. The document looked so official, so plausible, but I knew the truth. I knew what was in that spreadsheet. This was a smokescreen. The first-class ticket was the most brilliant, vicious part of it. No one in our frugal middle-class family flew first class. Ever. The very idea was laughable. By claiming my ticket was first class, she was isolating me. She was making my travel experience fundamentally different from everyone else's, giving her a built-in excuse for why my ticket cost 6 times more than theirs. If I were to complain to my Aunt Carol, my ticket was over $9,000. My mother had already supplied the answer. Of course, dear. Chloe is flying first class. It was a special upgrade to make her trip less stressful, given her important duties as maid of honor. She would be the hero once again. So what do we do now? I asked, feeling the walls closing in again. She sent me a fake invoice from a fake company. I can't send this to a fake HR department for my fake work problem. It's another dead end. Not a dead end, Mark said, his eyes gleaming with an intensity that was starting to scare me a little. An opportunity. She just gave us the most powerful weapon we could have asked for. She gave us a specific, verifiable lie. He walked over to our whiteboard, the one we usually use for grocery lists and doodles, and uncapped a marker. He wrote, "The Lie," at the top. Underneath it, he wrote, "Chloe has a fully flexible first-class ticket." Up until now, he explained, gesturing at the board, the lie was vague. It was a contribution, a package. It was emotional and messy. But this, he tapped the words, First class with the marker. This is concrete. This is binary. It's either true or it's false. And we both know it's false. All we have to do now is prove it. And how do we do that without the real ticket confirmation? I asked, the frustration rising in my voice. We don't need the confirmation anymore, he said. We have a new plan, and this plan is going to unfold not here, but in Hawaii. We're going to the wedding. The thought sent a jolt of panic through me. What? Mark, no. I can't face her. I can't stand there and pretend everything is okay. You won't have to pretend for long, he said calmly. You're just going to play the part she's written for you. The part of the dutiful daughter with the very expensive, very flexible, first-class plane ticket. You're going to thank her profusely for the invoice. You're going to tell her it solved your work problem completely. You're going to be the most grateful, loving daughter she has ever seen. You're going to lull her into a false sense of security. You're going to make her believe she has won, that her lies are safe. I listened, my heart pounding as he laid out the rest of the plan. It was audacious. It was terrifying. It was theatrical and cruel, and hinged entirely on my ability to act. It felt like something out of a movie, but as he spoke I realized it was also perfect. It wasn't a direct confrontation, which my mother would win. It was a public unraveling. It used her own ego, her need for control and perfection, as the mechanism of her downfall. The next 6 weeks were the longest of my life. I played my part. I called my mom and gushed about the bespoke travel package. I thanked her for her incredible generosity in upgrading me to first class. I've never flown first class in my life, Mom. I'm going to feel like a movie star, I chirped, the words tasting like poison in my mouth. She lapped it up. I could hear the smug satisfaction in her voice. Well, you're the maid of honor, honey. You deserve to be treated specially, she'd said. The trap was set. We flew to Hawaii. The flight itself was an exercise in quiet rage. I sat in seat 28B, a middle seat in economy, squeezed between a snoring man and a woman who kept elbowing me. I thought about the lie, the spacious reclining seat, the complimentary champagne, the quiet cabin. The first-class experience my mother had stolen $9,000 to pretend to give me. With every bump of turbulence, my resolve hardened. The wedding was at a beautiful resort on the beach. The rehearsal dinner was the night before the main event, a casual luau on a pristine lawn overlooking the ocean. The entire family was there, aunts, uncles, cousins, all mingling, laughing, drinking Mai Tais. My mother was in her element, flitting from group to group, the gracious host, the mastermind behind this perfect family gathering. She was radiant, accepting praise for her organizational skills. I found my moment when my dad, a quiet, non-confrontational man, who usually let my mother run the show, was getting a drink at the open bar. Jessica, my sister, was nearby, talking to our cousins. I walked up to the bar, my heart hammering against my ribs. This was it. Phase 2. "Hey, Dad," I said, my voice bright and cheerful. "Isn't this amazing? Mom really outdid herself." "She certainly did," he said, smiling at me. "It's wonderful to have everyone together. How was your flight, sweetheart? Your mother told me you got a fancy upgrade." Showtime. I leaned in, lowering my voice to a conspiratorial, excited whisper, just loud enough for Jessica and my nearby cousins to overhear. "Oh my God, Dad. It was unbelievable. I mean, the legroom alone. But I actually have a huge favor to ask." I pulled out my phone. So the most amazing thing happened. While I was sitting in the first-class lounge, I paused, letting the words hang in the air. I saw Jessica's head turn slightly in our direction. I sat next to this woman who, it turns out, is a huge deal at the company I've been trying to get a job with for years. We got to talking, and she basically offered me an interview on the spot. But it's in San Francisco, and it's for tomorrow afternoon. My dad looked utterly confused. "Tomorrow? The wedding is tomorrow." I put on my most distressed expression. "I know, it's a nightmare. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I would never ever miss Jessica's ceremony for anything, but the interview is at 4 p.m. The wedding is at noon. I did the math, and if I can get on a 2 p.m. flight, I can just make it." I looked at him, my eyes wide and pleading. "And that's where I need your help. Mom booked me that super expensive, fully flexible first-class ticket, remember? The whole point was that I could change it at a moment's notice. But my phone is getting terrible service out here on the lawn. Could I please borrow your phone to call the airline's first-class service line and change my flight to tomorrow afternoon? I need to do it right now, before the seats are gone." My dad's face was a kaleidoscope of confusion. "Tomorrow? Chloe, you can't be serious. You're the maid of honor. You have to be in the photos, the reception. I know, Dad, and I'm sick about it, I said, injecting a note of frantic desperation into my voice. I could feel the ripple effect of my words. My sister Jessica had now completely abandoned her conversation and was walking towards us, her brow furrowed with concern. My cousin David and his wife were also looking over, their mai tais paused halfway to their lips. I had an audience. I'll be here for the whole ceremony, I promise. I'll stand right next to Jess, I'll do the toast, everything. I'll just have to slip out right after. It's a career-making opportunity, Dad, you understand. Chloe, what's going on? Jessica asked, arriving at my side. What's this about an interview? I repeated the lie, embellishing it with more detail. The fake company name, the fake executive's title, the incredible serendipity of the encounter in the first-class lounge. I sold it like my life depended on it. And the best part is, Mom was so amazing and forward-thinking. She bought me that special flexible first-class ticket, just in case a work emergency like this came up. So it won't even cost anything to change it. I just need to make the call. Dad, can I please use your phone? Mine's about to die. Before my dad could even react, a new voice cut through the air, sharp and imperious. What is all this commotion about? It was my mother. She had glided over, a plastic smile plastered on her face, but her eyes were like chips of ice. She had clearly heard the last part of the conversation. She knew exactly what I was doing. This was the moment the game became real. "Oh, Mom, thank God you're here," I exclaimed, turning to her with a performance of pure, unadulterated relief. "I was just telling Dad and Jess the most incredible news. I met a woman in the first-class lounge and she offered me a dream interview, but it's tomorrow in San Francisco. Isn't that crazy? But it's okay, because you bought me that amazing, fully flexible ticket, so I can just change my flight to tomorrow afternoon and still be here for the whole ceremony. You literally saved my career. You think of everything." I threw my arms around her and hugged her tightly. It was like hugging a statue. Her body was completely rigid. Over her shoulder I could see the faces of my family members, my baffled father, my worried sister, my curious cousins. They were all looking at my mother, waiting for her to respond, to join in the celebration of this wonderful, serendipitous news. They were waiting for the hero of the story to confirm her heroic deed. My mother pulled away from the hug, her smile looking stretched and painful. "Well," she said, her voice dangerously even, "that's wonderful news, Chloe. But I'm not sure now is the time to be making travel arrangements." "It has to be now," I insisted, keeping the panicked energy high. "The seats will be gone. I just need to call the airline. What's the name of your bespoke travel agency again? Brenda's something? Do you have the number for your agent? Or the airline's first-class service line?" "I need the record locator number from my ticket." I had her. Every question was a new nail in the coffin. She couldn't produce a number for a fake travel agency. She couldn't give me the name of a non-existent travel agent, and she sure as hell couldn't give me a record locator number for a first-class ticket that didn't exist. She was standing in the center of a circle of her own lies, and the walls were closing in. Her eyes darted around, looking for an escape route. "Chloe, this is not the place. We're at your sister's rehearsal dinner. You're making a scene." "I'm not making a scene, Mom. I'm trying to solve a problem," I said, my voice cracking with faux emotion. I turned to my sister. "Jess, I am so sorry to be doing this right now, but this is life-changing. I promise I will be there for you. I just need to make one quick phone call." Jessica, bless her innocent heart, was completely caught up in my drama. "No, of course, Chloe. If it's that important, you have to call. Mom, just give her the number. Let's get it sorted so we can all relax." All eyes were back on my mother, my father, my sister, my cousins. They were all looking at her with expectant faces. They saw a simple problem with a simple solution. Their daughter, or sister, niece, needed to make a phone call. The all-powerful, all-organized matriarch Brenda had the information. She just needed to provide it. My mother's face was pale under the tiki torchlight. The mask of the gracious host was crumbling, revealing the snarling panic beneath. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked at me, and in her eyes I didn't see anger. I saw pure, animalistic fear. She was cornered. The number is in my hotel room," she stammered, grabbing at the first excuse she could find. "And the record locator. I don't have it with me." "Okay," I said, immediately countering. "No problem. I'll walk back to the room with you right now and get it. Let's go." I started to take her arm, ready to lead her away. "No!" The word exploded out of her, far louder than she intended. A few other family members nearby turned to look. She visibly flinched, realizing her mistake. She took a deep breath, trying to regain control. "No," she repeated, her voice now a low, menacing hiss meant only for me. "You will stop this right now." But I wasn't going to stop. I was going to push. I turned to the small crowd we had gathered. "I don't understand," I said, my voice filled with genuine-sounding confusion. "Mom, why are you acting so weird? You're the one who told me it was a fully flexible ticket. You sent me the invoice. Did something happen? Is there a problem with the ticket?" My mother stared at me, her chest rising and falling rapidly. The silence stretched for an eternity. The festive luau music and the sound of the waves seemed to fade into the background. It was just us, locked in a silent battle of wills in front of our entire family. She had one last move, one final desperate gambit to shut me down and regain control of the narrative. She looked past me, her eyes locking on my sister. She took a step towards Jessica, her expression shifting into one of deep maternal sorrow. Her voice, when she spoke, was thick with manufactured pain, designed for maximum emotional impact. "Jessica, sweetie," she began, her voice trembling. "There's something I haven't told you, something I was trying to protect you from, to keep your special weekend perfect." She paused, taking Jessica's hands in hers. "I'm so sorry. The truth is, your sister Chloe has been having a very difficult time lately. There is no job interview. There was no first-class lounge. She's in a great deal of debt, and I'm afraid she's developed a bit of a gambling problem." The accusation hung in the humid, salt-tinged air, so utterly deranged it sucked the oxygen out of the space around us. A gambling problem. It was a lie of such breathtaking magnitude, so completely untethered from reality, that for a moment no one knew how to react. My father's jaw literally dropped. Jessica recoiled as if she'd been slapped. My cousin David choked on his drink. It was the nuclear option. My mother, facing total exposure, had decided to burn everything to the ground, and me along with it. She wasn't just discrediting me anymore, she was attempting to have me declared mentally unstable. It was a smear campaign of the highest order, deployed with the precision of a character assassin. She continued, her voice a symphony of feigned anguish, still clutching Jessica's hands. "She came to me months ago, drowning in credit card debt. She'd been playing online poker," she said. "It got out of hand. I paid for her flight, of course, but the rest of the money she sent, I've been holding on to it for her, trying to help her manage it. This whole story about an interview, about changing her flight, it's a fantasy. It's a desperate attempt to get her hands on that cash. I'm so sorry you have to see her like this. I was trying to handle it privately. Every word was a twisting knife. She was using my own money, the money she stole, as proof of her benevolence. In this new, insane narrative, the $8,000 wasn't a theft. It was a rescue fund, managed by a saintly mother trying to save her degenerate daughter from herself. It was brilliant. It was monstrous. For a split second, I saw a flicker of doubt in Jessica's eyes. She looked from my mother's tear-streaked face to my stunned one. My mother had been the sun our family orbited for our entire lives. Her word was law. Her reality was our reality. And I, her daughter, was now being painted as a sick, compulsive liar. Who were they going to believe? But then something shifted. The shock on my face wasn't horror anymore. It was a cold, quiet fury. This was so far beyond the pale, so cartoonishly evil, that it had the opposite effect she intended. It broke the spell. It was too much. A lie about an upgrade is one thing. An elaborate public diagnosis of a secret gambling addiction is another. It was a shock, jumping over another shock. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just laughed. It started as a small, incredulous chuckle and grew into a full, genuine laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had just seen the monster under the bed and realized it was wearing a ridiculous party hat. The sound was so unexpected, so completely at odds with the high drama of the moment, that it made everyone, including my mother, stare at me. "Wow," I said, wiping a tear of mirth from my eye. "Wow, Mom. A gambling problem. That is, inspired. I mean, really, you've outdone yourself. I was expecting you to say I'd joined a cult, or maybe that I was being blackmailed, but a secret online poker addiction. A+ for creativity." My mother's face went from sorrowful to thunderous. "This is no laughing matter, Chloe. You are unwell." "No, I'm not unwell," I said, my voice suddenly clear and steady, all traces of panic and performance gone. I took a step forward, commanding the attention of my small captive audience. "I'm just done. The show is over. And since Mom has decided to introduce fictions, let's talk about facts. I looked at my cousin David. David, what price did Mom quote you for your flight? David looked like a deer in headlights, glancing nervously at my mother. She told me to tell you. I know what she told you to tell me, I interrupted calmly. I saw the text. I'm asking you, right here, in front of everyone, what did you actually pay? David swallowed hard, looking at my father, then at me. He mumbled, $14.50. $14.50, I repeated, letting the number hang in the air. Thank you for your honesty. Aunt Carol? Uncle Robert? Same question. From across the lawn, my aunt and uncle, who had been drawn in by the commotion, exchanged a look. Yes, my uncle called out. $450 each. That was the group rate. The group rate, I nodded, turning my gaze back to my mother, who looked like she was about to be physically ill. Funny, isn't it? How everyone paid the exact same group rate. A rate that I too was quoted. A rate for which I too transferred the funds. I paused, then delivered the final blow. And yet my contribution to this family trip, according to a certain spreadsheet, was $9,540. A collective gasp went through the family members who were listening. Jessica's eyes widened in horror, not at me anymore, but at our mother. The pieces were clicking into place for her. The generous gift, the spreadsheet, my strange questions. It was all starting to make a terrible, horrifying kind of sense. The spreadsheet? Jessica whispered, her voice trembling. Oh yes, I said, pulling out my phone. The spreadsheet. The one with all the color-coded tabs. The one that itemizes my ticket price into fascinating categories like maid of honor gratitude fee and reimbursement for childhood expenses. Would anyone like to see it? I held up my phone, the screen glowing with the damning Excel file. My mother lunged for it, a strangled cry escaping her lips, but my dad finally jolted into action, put a hand on her arm to stop her. His face, usually so mild and passive, was a mask of cold fury. He had heard it all. He had seen enough. Brenda, he said, his voice dangerously quiet. Is this true? My mother was trapped. The lies had collapsed. The narratives had failed. She was surrounded by the family she had tried to manipulate, and they were all staring at her, waiting for an answer. There was no escape. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a hatred so pure it was chilling. Then she looked at Jessica, whose face was a portrait of heartbreak and betrayal. Her perfect daughter, her perfect wedding. It was all turning to ash. She didn't answer my father. She didn't try to deny it. Instead, she took a deep, shuddering breath, straightened her shoulders, and with a voice dripping with venom, she looked directly at me and delivered her parting shot. The one thing she knew would hurt me and my sister the most. You want to talk about money? She hissed, her voice low and menacing. Fine. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about who really paid for this wedding. Because it certainly wasn't your sister and her deadbeat fiancé. The only reason any of us are standing in this ridiculously expensive resort is because I cashed out the college fund. The one Dad and I set up for your future children. For our grandchildren. That was the bomb that finally vaporized what was left of our family's fragile peace. The revelation landed with a sickening thud. A truth so much uglier and more complicated than simple theft. The college fund. It was something my parents had started when we were kids, a sacred trust they'd spoken of with pride. It was for their future grandchildren, a legacy of love and opportunity they planned to pass down. And my mother had raided it. She'd liquidated a future generation's security to finance a single, perfect day of narcissistic supply for herself, all disguised as a gift to my sister. Jessica just crumpled. The sound she made was a wounded, broken sob, and she sank to her knees on the perfectly manicured lawn. Her dream wedding, this beautiful facade, was built on a foundation of lies and stolen futures. Her fiancé rushed to her side, helping her up, his face a grim mask of anger and disillusionment. This wasn't just about my stolen money anymore. This was about a fundamental betrayal of everyone. My father looked at my mother as if he'd never seen her before. The quiet, accommodating man was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize, a man whose world had been shattered. You did what, Brenda? Ah, he asked, his voice barely a whisper, but it carried more weight than any shout. Without telling me? My mother, finally seeing the scorched earth she had created, seemed to shrink. Her bravado, her righteous anger, it all evaporated, leaving behind a brittle, pathetic shell. I was going to pay it back, she stammered, the lie sounding hollow even to her own ears. It was just to make sure Jessica had a perfect day. Everything I do, I do for this family. But no one was buying it anymore. The spell was broken for good. The master manipulator had lost her audience. No, my father said, his voice hard as stone. Everything you do for yourself. We're done. He turned away from her and went to Jessica, wrapping his arms around his weeping daughter. The rehearsal dinner ended in a silent, awkward exodus. Family members melted away into the darkness, mumbling excuses, unable to look at my mother, who stood alone by the tiki torches, a queen deposed in her own crumbling kingdom. There was no big, dramatic confrontation after that. The implosion was surprisingly quiet. Mark and I went back to our hotel room. An hour later, my father and Jessica knocked on our door. Jessica's eyes were red and swollen, but she was no longer crying. She just looked empty. "I'm so sorry, Chloe," she whispered, pulling me into a hug that felt fierce and desperate. "I'm so sorry I didn't see it, that I believed her." "It's not your fault," I said, holding her tight. "She's a professional." My father looked at me, his eyes filled with a deep, weary shame. "I'll transfer your money back tomorrow morning, Chloe. All of it. The $9,540. I'll take it from my own retirement account until I can figure out the mess she's made of our finances." "Dad, you don't have to," I started, but he held up a hand. "Yes, I do. This happened on my watch. I let it happen. I've been letting things happen for 30 years. That stops tonight." Ace. The wedding, amazingly, still happened the next day, but it was a different event than the one my mother had planned. It was smaller, quieter. Jessica and her fiancé decided they wanted to get married on the beach at sunrise, with just a handful of us there. Me, Mark, our dad, and a few close friends and cousins. It was simple and beautiful, and for the first time, it felt real. It was about them, not about the show. My mother was not invited. My dad told her she could either fly home on the first available flight or stay in her hotel room, but she was not to come anywhere near the ceremony. I heard from my cousin that she chose to fly home, alone. The aftermath was messy, as expected. My dad filed for divorce a month later. The financial discovery process was, as he put it, a journey through a house of horrors. There were secret credit cards, loans taken out in his name, and a history of moving money around that painted a clear picture of a woman living far beyond her means to maintain an illusion of control and status. The theft from me was just the tip of a very large, very rotten iceberg. My father, free from her influence, seemed to get lighter every day. He started taking charge of his own life, making his own decisions. He and I became closer than we had ever been, bonding over the shared trauma and the mutual task of rebuilding. My relationship with Jessica was forever changed, but for the better. The perfect, curated sisterhood we'd always had, orchestrated by our mother, was replaced by something more honest and raw. We learned to talk to each other without a maternal filter, to rely on each other in a way we never had before. She and her husband are doing great. They see the wedding not as a disaster, but as a painful, necessary liberation. As for me, I got my money back. I put it right back into my condo fund, and 6 months ago, Mark and I closed on a small 2-bedroom place downtown. The spreadsheet, that toxic document that started it all, is saved on a flash drive in a safety deposit box. I don't look at it, but I keep it as a reminder that the cost of keeping the peace can be far too high. I haven't spoken to my mother since that night in Hawaii. She's tried to reach out a few times through relatives, sending messages that she's worried about me and that she forgives me. It's the last desperate gasp of a narcissist who cannot and will not ever admit she was wrong. But her words have no power over me anymore. I know the truth. My family knows the truth. She's no longer the writer, director, and star of our lives. She's just a lonely woman in an empty house, with nothing left to organize and no one left to control. And I, for the first time in my life, am truly, completely free.